for all of us, Boys World is a part of our everyday like evolution. When it comes to our life, this is our whole life.
We created so many beautiful memories.
And we cherish it, and we're working really hard to make it bigger and known more to the world.
So many of our dreams have come true.
So for me, it's just kind of like, it's my constant evolution.
Boys World's disbandment happened this past summer, and I'm not surprised, but I am a little disappointed. Earlier this year, it seemed like the group was leveling up, really taking advantage of all the groundwork they laid in previous years. Keen Entertainment, their management and label, had a lot of criticisms on how they were handling the girls. Even I dragged them a little bit. And thanks to y'all, I think someone over there at Keen listened. But whatever improvements that were implemented, it was too little too late. They had a great promotion with Caught in Your Love. It seemed like everything was fitting into place, and then boom, party over. Next thing you know, they dropped their disbandment video, and soon as I saw the thumbnail, I knew it was up. However, I don't want to dwell on the sorrows of Boys World. I'd rather focus on their impact and what we can learn from their run. This situation gives us a lot of insight in how the American industry views groups in general. But in this video, I'll be theorizing what the future of American girl groups could look like and why they aren't supported like they were in the past. Before I get into the meat and potatoes, I just want to give Boys World their flowers for a second. This was one of the first American pop quintets that caught my attention in the 2020s. When I first saw them, I literally thought they were Gen Z stereotypes.
Bitch, what? Really?
I'm a millennial, so I was a little disconnected. But I'm a sucker for a girl group, so I was going to give them a shot regardless. The thing I liked about them is how their diversity was organic. Of course, with groups like this, its creators makes it a business objective to have diversity, but it was never disingenuous. No one ever felt like the token black girl, Latino, or Asian. No singular demo was exploited or gain. Boys World made it a point to make American pop music. They just so happened to be multicultural. And for a pop group, that's a big deal. Usually for pop groups, it's their MO to take advantage of the demos their multicultural members come from. So I gave these girls a shot, and what kept me invested in the quintet was their unique aura. A lot of their songs felt like it never tapped into their true essence, or a lot of their songs felt like stepping stones, and I was always waiting for them to find their footing. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but there was something cool and alternative about these girls. Boys World, even though they were a pop group with a slice of R&B, I think they would have gone further and did better with alternative music. And something else that could fit their vibe would be Mahalia's in the Club. Like they could pull that off. Editing me here, I just wanted to mention that Boys World could also pull off Bridget Medler, like during her 2016 Nemesis era, where if you were tapped in, you knew about Bridget's hip hop pop alternative era with her EP Nemesis.
I wish I knew you wanted me. I wish I knew. I wish I knew you wanted me. I wish I knew.
And this could come kind of out of left field, but I feel like Boys World had the potential of making serious music.
We can do a lot. It's not to brag, but we can. We write songs. We're songwriters, dancers.
Which isn't the norm for girl group music. It's usually lighthearted songs meant for its time. Yes, there are exceptions, but I'm just generalizing again. Ultimately, I hate how Boys World ended before we could really see what they could do. Unfortunately, unknown forces wouldn't allow the quintet to see their potential fully realized. Now, before I go on talking about what can be learned from Boys World's career, I'd like to make a disclaimer. Keep in mind the lessons here are going to be very skewed, since the girls introduced themselves during the shutdowns, and that made everything that much more difficult, and I will give Keen Entertainment some grace. They were shooting blind a little bit. There hadn't been a recent major American girl group to model themselves after since Fifth Harmony.
Fun fact,
Only we know. Let's just say it here.
But as I digress, there's been a lot of conversations about where the groups are, the American girl groups, Western girl groups, American girl groups, whatever. And the reason why there aren't any is because the major labels think that they're a waste of money. Throughout Boys World's career, we saw how integral money was to success. Sure, there were things that they could have done better. I already did a video talking about those issues, but money would have helped with the promotions, curating a fan base, touring music, like everything. But the major labels don't care to invest. I was racking my brain trying to figure out the ways an American girl group could find success stateside, and I realized that there isn't some special code. All you need is money. Like if the major labels really cared, we would have had so many groups right now after Fifth Harmony. Matter of fact, things are already going downhill in the 2010s when Simon Cowell was the only person pretty much making groups. Even before Fifth Harmony, people were asking why it took 4 years at the Pussycat Dolls and Danity Kane for another big girl group to really pop off. Even back then, labels were thinking groups were a waste of money, despite seeing the success of One Direction and Fifth Harmony. You know what I mean? And I have a theory that when music went digital, when streaming really took over, that is when groups were put on life support. Because if y'all think about it, when music was becoming digitized and when streaming was becoming the main way of us consuming music, that changed the infrastructure completely. Now, what's on the forefront of a lot of these major labels' minds is how to be as cost efficient as possible and how to make the most money. So what they'll do is they'll go to this one solo artist. They're investing more in solo artists. So they'll go to one person, they'll prop this one person up, make them important enough to attract a fan base that'll probably go to their concerts. And of course, you know, like I said, they want to do this as cheap as possible. And groups aren't the cheapest possible option to do this business model, right?
Wait, really? What do you mean?
No.
Groups inherently need more resources than their solo counterparts, and they are riskier investments. In weighing out which artist type can make more money, you could argue a soloist can make as much and or even more than a group. So for a soloist, you can put in less money and have a better return, and even if they flop, it's easier to cut those losses. For groups, not so much.
Jesus!
However, what's interesting is that a lot of independent labels are taking on that risk. Boys World came from an independent label along with most of the American groups out right now. Shout out to the new group Iconics. Fingers crossed they have a good career ahead of them right now. And I'm hoping indie labels watch this video. Indie labels, independent, whatever. If anyone is making a pop group in whatever variant, please understand that you must get your money right.
You know.
So, I'd argue making a successful girl group isn't hard to figure out. You just need to build a dedicated fan base, which is step 1. And to do that, you need money and resources, which is step 0, basically. Then ultimately, make your audience lucrative enough to sustain and level up said group's career, which is step 3. So editing me here, I just wanted to talk about Boys World having issues. Their biggest issue, in my opinion, was building their fandom. I already talked about if they had money, this would have helped them out a lot. But for whatever reason, Boys World was stagnant after their first EP. And I don't know what it was, but whatever they put out never really went anywhere. They didn't get as much streams as they used to. And obviously I talked about how maybe Keen Entertainment, they spent too much of the budget on promoting the first EP. So when it came to their next projects, you know, they couldn't really make it go anywhere, like any new stuff go anywhere, because they already spent most of the money. But I just don't know, y'all. Please comment down below what would have helped them with their fan situation, with their traction, because I've been racking my brain and I just don't know. Like, you need more than social media. But then also it's like they needed leverage. They needed clout more than anything. And the only thing I can think of is probably doing more cross-promotional stuff. But I don't know. Tell me down below. What do y'all think? I think girl groups with a budget inherently attracts a large enough audience to build from. And I think that, especially with the drought that we're in now, people aren't going to be too picky with the group that debuts. You know what I mean? Like, you're practically the only one at this point. I think the real tricky part is being able to afford the level of attention that you want. How much money does it take for a quote-unquote good budget?
We just can't talk about it.
Legally, we cannot talk.
In order for people to take said group seriously and find them appealing. And after you get a following, how do you keep the money rolling? Are you gonna come out the gate with lots of music promotions and then immediately tour off the clout? Are you going to invest in building up the social media presence and audience of said groups first and then make it lucrative later on, then dole out the music? Are the members going to do other projects that feed back to the group? Because that's what Citizen Queen has been doing, and it's had mixed results. They still lost another member after everything they achieved. There needs to be more strategy when you have less resources. I think Boys World wanted to tour immediately after their first EP, but they couldn't because of the restrictions, so they had to settle for a showcase.
Something about what?
Okay. Do you have any?
This severely hurt their money earning potential. Had they been able to tour, I believe they could have been in a better spot now, but generally speaking, the fans are key. Good news is that there is a demand for girl groups, American ones, because of Boys World's disbandment and the previous girl group members from Psycho releasing solo music simultaneously, it sparked a huge social media conversation this past summer about the lack of girl groups. So there is a big void that needs to be filled. And while I'm on the topic of fans and demand, I think as a society, in my opinion, I think we've come to a point where girl groups just aren't designated for tweens. Boys World was very kid-friendly when they dropped their first EP, but the people who were showing up at the shows and the festivals, they looked like college-age kids. Boys World didn't have to do the kid thing. It seemed disingenuous for them.
Remember when we couldn't swear?
That's so funny.
Couldn't. We just didn't want to. We were in a different brand trajectory.
Groups can still do bubblegum pop and teen pop, but it has evolved into Olivia Rodrigo and Madison Beer. And a lot of the times, it's young adults listening, so take that into account. Another huge lesson I need for indie labels to know is that K-pop is not going to save you. K-pop methods without a major budget and without that K-pop infrastructure will fail every time, because a huge part of K-pop's marketing is a never-ending flow of high-quality content, and that content can garner loads of traction because of their very powerful companies leveraging the clout that they've already built up online and in traditional media to keep fueling it. Boys World tried implementing those methods, but didn't have that infrastructure to really propel them, and it really hurt them in the long run.
Like, it was intense, y'all.
Now, big Western acts like Taylor Swift have adopted some K-pop techniques, but it works for them because they have a large fan ecosystem that they can utilize. When idol groups release music, they make sure to reinforce it by doing loads of real-world promo along with the digital. And as a result, all that traction feeds into each other for new groups on a modest budget. A smaller scale version of this would be going down the influencer route, frequently collabing with platforms on your status or slightly bigger, or frequently collaborating with influencers in that same way where it builds up both your group and said collaborators' social cachet. You're siphoning off clout where you can get it, ideally from a larger establishment than yourself, until said group can be self-sustaining.
Because we
No.
tried.
No, get drama.
Yeah, the drama.
To where you can drop music or promote the music and it'll stick more. Also, having more than one social media site as your flagship platform would be ideal, and you must be careful on what platforms to build off of. They all work differently and specialize in different areas. Boys World heavily relied on TikTok to grow a base, and TikTok specializes in casual audiences, not dedicated ones. Something else Boys World had issues with was consistency. The girls practically took a hiatus in 2022, and it really did some damage.
Who do they think they are? I've given the best years of my life to this place and they think they can just fire me like that? Like trash? I don't think so.
SpongeBob?
Anyway.
Is that you?
I've been waiting for you, Patrick!
And this is something for all future groups to look at, is how to foster a dedicated base. You must be consistent. The fandoms must be fed for it to continue to thrive, because if the fans see you're not putting in any effort to keeping the community alive, they'll dip. Though I will say Boys World probably spent so many resources without being able to recoup from their investments that they had to take a break in 2022, so maybe they couldn't afford to be active.
Better luck next time.
Aside from how to build your profile, a small group has to learn how to promote their music effectively. So some ideas on how to promote the music in line with the siphoning off method. Try to make eventful releases that are contingent on your white whale. I know this sounds confusing, but all I'm saying is make up your own TV leverage. When TV was king, it was the ideal place to jumpstart careers and promote the best in pop culture, like TRL, VMA, and the American Idol. Little Mix would have a lot of TV leverage from the X Factor. They'd always drop their albums around the show's finale and perform to promote whatever said new album was out at the time. Not only that, but they also performed on a lot of X Factor spin-off shows that had their own ecosystem. Now, since TV isn't king anymore, artists are being more creative with finding their white whale, and loads of people are using Coachella for promotion. They drop a single right before the festival and use their festival performance to promote and add legs to the single, and two of the biggest songs of this summer spawned from this promotional tactic. I think a smaller scale version to this would be...
Oh, we love Citizen Queen. Love them.
He'll be coming down the chimney down, down, down. I'm gonna keep loving you down.
Promoting the music on a big platform like Genius, using their promotional package for artists. Not going to lie, it's pricey, but for a group on the come up, I think that they should invest in something like these bigger platforms. Sometimes, every once in a while. When you drop a single, try to tie it in with a performance on a bigger platform. On the album or EP release day, do a promotional run on a bigger platform. Again, how often you do this is dependent on your budget, and an even cheaper option is to set up a big collab around a musical release. Maybe with a prominent remixer, DJ, or social media artist. The options are out there. You gotta be creative. If you can't afford Coachella, that doesn't mean you can't make your own event. I'd like to point out that platforms like SoundCloud for indie artists, they have tools that can help raise your profile on their streaming platforms, and they also have their own festivals and their own live performance thing going on, so there's options. Grape Juice 2, it's a UK-based media outlet that promotes loads of small artists. Major Stage also has promotional tools for artists, and they host live events in New York and LA for artists to go on to. So there's options. Gotta be creative. Just for a second, I want to highlight some of the lessons Fifth Harmony could teach new groups, since they were the last big American girl group. If there's anything Fifth Harmony has taught us about the modern girl group, is that it takes time and it takes money. It took time for Fifth Harmony's base to grow, and it took money. Fifth Harmony built their fandom for 3 years until they released their debut album in 2015. From Fifth Harmony's journey, those who are making girl groups should keep in mind it's a marathon, not a race.
Exactly.
Another big lesson Fifth Harmony had was that you can serve two markets at one time. K-pop has been doing this for a while. The K-pop idol system, from its inception, has always been made to look outside its country's borders for success. But before it caught America's attention, Fifth Harmony had what I'd argue a global girl group model. From the start, they targeted the American and Latin markets, and it was successful because it was part of their identity. They had 3 Latinas and 2 fluent Spanish speakers. They had Spanish versions of their songs and extensively toured Latin America, all while doing American promotions. Once I think about global groups like that, it starts to make way more sense. Groups in the past would focus on one market at a time and would produce music in other languages as special releases, but they made sure to keep it separate from their main audiences so they wouldn't alienate their base. Now with streaming, people have more relaxed attitudes to foreign languages and songs, so the fear of alienating a base isn't so high anymore. Fifth Harmony would release Spanish versions of their songs in the same mix as the English ones. They proved if you could find an underserved market, you can find mass success. This is helpful in the present day when cracking mainstream America has gotten exponentially harder. It can make you bankrupt because it's too large and the competition is so fierce. Why not just go to the audience who is already showing up? If you can't find an audience in your backyard, you can always find one abroad. Thanks to streaming, anyone from anywhere can show up and listen to your music, and I think that's partially why the global group model has been so popular lately. Boys World was trying to branch out into the Eastern market with their stint on that Chinese show.
Oh yeah. We hope that this show next week broadcasting opens up even more opportunities for more places for us to go to.
It was a great move, but it was too little too late in my opinion. Anyways, right now I'm seeing a lot of global girl groups either targeting the Latin market or Eastern market, while both having footholds in America. But I'm not sure if any of these groups are trying to break into the American mainstream. They seem to be doing well enough where they are having a large enough American international audience as is, as opposed to groups like Katseye, whose label has made it clear they want them to be big on both sides of the hemisphere. Thanks to globalization, the name of the game is to catch whatever audience you can domestically and or internationally and capitalize on whatever traction you can get through touring. This certainly helps with the money situation. Plus, groups excel at live performances, and I think people are more willing to see a group live than their soloist counterparts. I personally think for the American market, because competition is so fierce, it's best to niche down and build up from smaller communities, from subgenres of alt pop or soft rock. It'll be easier to capture attention, or pick a genre that has an infrastructure that'll help you break out. American R&B has its own major platforms on YouTube, Instagram, and has its own award shows. It's oversaturated with soloists right now, but groups are a different story. R&B can be the most hospitable for groups. There's a large demand for Black American groups to make a comeback. Right now, the biggest R&B group out is Flow. They covered a lot of ground stateside. They were at the major Black award shows, and they've had successful tours over here. They're saying that the R&B lane is open and right for the taking.
Missed opportunity.
Aside from that, this could be the future of American groups in general. We could have groups relatively unknown stateside with huge touring careers and even bigger popularity internationally. I think it's possible for groups to have chart success, but it's up in the air. Commercial success is still obtainable, though. I just want to highlight that this might be truer for female groups than the male groups. All throughout history, male groups had an easier time and were more frequently achieving massive commercial success than the girls. People have always been more lenient towards the boy groups when it comes to talent and nationality. Boy groups are there to target a female audience, helping them understand who they are through their romantic attractions and the fan communities they foster. Girl groups are there to speak to a female audience's sense of community by establishing platonic-like parasocial relationships. Because of that, girl groups are more scrutinized by their female audiences in comparison to the male groups. As a matter of fact, I can say without a doubt, there'll be another major boy group. That's a given. Girls, not so much. In the future, we could see groups having more of a language mixing in the discography. We're already used to that, but it'll become an even bigger priority and comes to even more diverse languages. Okay, so I can't talk about the future of American girl groups without really touching on the experimental groups like Vicha and Katseye. Specifically referring to Katseye, judging from everything I've seen thus far, their marketing style is a hybrid between the West and the East, but in my opinion, they lean more towards the K-pop side of things. They produce so much content when it comes to their releases that it can be overwhelming. It's great for sustaining a K-pop fan base, but it can ward off casual American consumers, which is a demo Katseye is trying to cater to as well. And something that really turns me off about Katseye, they're trying to be everything at once, and so they're always fall short with me. Their EP is a perfect example of trying to do too much at once, and catering to the K-pop audience and trying to attract an American audience. Half of Katseye's EP is very bland K-pop, and yes, I mean K-pop. Doesn't matter if they're singing in English. The song structure of Debut and Touch is very K-pop.
I don't know what's going on over there.
And the other half of the EP is very bland 2010s pop. The music is a nothing burger. I will say though, Touch is very catchy, but nothing special. Honestly, girl group music, in my opinion, aren't even all that. Girl groups are primarily singles artists, so my hopes weren't that high to begin with. I've said this before, but most of Little Mix's catalog was a miss for me, and the only reason why I tolerated it was because of the girls' vocal performances. Fifth Harmony had a lot of duds, but they excelled in high energetic music, so that was their saving grace. Katseye would have done well with a cappella versions of their songs. I think that if I could hear great vocal performances and harmonies, that would have saved the music for me.
Oh, never wanna do what I'm told.
And no, it doesn't count that they post behind the scenes harmonies. They had to put it in the official discography. Boys World has similar issues like Katseye. I wish that they had more a cappella stuff to kind of make the music better, but guess I'll settle for the acoustic performances. Last few things I wanted to say about Katseye, its diversity rubs me the wrong way. You can tell this quote-unquote diversity is the K-pop digestible version, and you can clearly see the business objectives to their version of diversity. Now, I will say I can only imagine if you are someone who rarely gets represented on a world stage, Katseye's diversity means the world to you. I'm not negating that at all. I'm coming from a point of view where there was a whole decade of a better representation for my community. So seeing Katseye doesn't really do much for me. That's all I'm going to say. If you get it, you get it. But aside from all that, I'm afraid for the future of American girl groups with the spread of K-pop adjacent groups. If Katseye proves to be successful, that could low-key be the beginning of the end. I'm afraid that if big American labels throw all their weight on this group model, it could lead to the major labels making future groups like the same carbon copy of each other.
We'll see.
I just hope that there's still all kinds of groups operating outside the K-pop model K-pop's influence has already been adopted in so many ways. I just don't want the execution to all be one way. Like, I want a variety to choose from vocals, harmonies, blends, the diversity, the performance styles, even marketing. Needless to say, I have a lot of issues with the K-pop's experimental groups, but that's for another video. Before I close out this video, I need to be clear. I don't hate Katseye, I just think that their success comes with a lot of strings attached. Overall, the name of the game for new girl groups is to last as long as possible, build that dedicated base, make sure you have the capital to do so, and just have enough resources to hold you through to become a successful touring act, because that's what I think the next successful girl group will look like. And it's a type of career model where I think that indies can successfully achieve with girl groups. Speaking of, I've been thinking, what would happen if another label picked up Boys World? Obviously, they wouldn't keep the name, but I just think that they still have a great future with a bigger independent label. Not to mention, they're already developed, they've been a group for 5 years, and so it would be cost efficient for another label to pick them up. All that groundwork has already been laid out, so all they need is like good promotion and good music. They're good to go. For their 5 years as a group, I think Boys World made a mark for themselves. They'll be remembered for helping conjure up national conversations about American girl groups in the 2020s, and they are a great case study in seeing how girl groups can navigate this decade. And for me personally, they helped remind me of how important the independent music scene is. They're the only ones keeping the group scene alive, just in general. And in my opinion, they spawned a few successful groups that has satisfied my American group music needs. The Shandellas, No Guidance, Citizen Queen, Peace Siren, Infinity Song, Michelle. Check them out. Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe.